see. Take my glasses off. Okay, I'm ready. Let me
All
know.
right, you're good to go.
Okay. I would like to call the meeting of the St. Louis County Board of Zoning Adjustment to order. The board members present today are Angelia Bills, Chair, and Vincent Nutt, Member. The Department of Planning staff members are Debbie Nesbitt, Abiola Adesanya, and Gretchen Arnold. Also on the call today is John Burford from the County Counselor's Office. First, I would like to offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, September 20th, 2023. The board hereby takes official notice of and admits into evidence on the record the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 1003, St. Louis County Revised Ordinance 1974 as amended, and Chapter 1004, St. Louis County Revised Ordinance 1974 as amended. Next, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes of the previous BZA meeting of September 6, 2023.
A call for motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, and I second it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And Vince, you're aye too, right?
Aye. Sorry if you didn't hear
Okay,
me.
no worries. The motion passes. This meeting is conducted as a teleconference and is recorded. The planning staff will read each request into the record and present technical advice to the board if needed. The petitioner will be unmuted, state their name, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the reason and hardship for the requested variance. The board will not consider financial hardships. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts. When the board is satisfied with the material presented, the chairperson will then ask if there is anyone in favor or opposition to the request. To do so, click the hand next to your name. If any comments were submitted, staff will read them into the record. Before a call for the vote, the petitioner may request a continuance in order to bring in additional documentation. The board may also request a continuance to gather additional information or for a visit to the site. Once comments have been heard, the chairperson will call for a vote. At that time, the discussion is ended. No further discussion is permitted. The board will generally make a decision today. Because there are only two members present, if the board is split, the petition will be held until the next BZA meeting so that the third member can vote. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use requested, or the variance will expire. The petitioner or any interested party has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. Paperwork indicating the board's decision will be mailed to the petitioners.
All right, the first petition we have for you guys today is 55-23 John Tucker Jr. is a request for an exception to the front yard regulations for the purpose of constructing a deck on the rear of the home at 5058 Brincastle Place, maintaining a front yard of 22 feet in lieu of 25 feet from Kurth Road as required by the R2 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance. John, I am going to request for you to unmute. And again, just please state your first and last name for the record and go ahead and present to the board.
Hi, this is John Tucker. Appreciate the opportunity to present to the board today, so thank you for that. What the plan is to add a deck to the back of this house that's about 30 years old, and it's never had a deck attached to the back, so currently there's a door to nowhere that exits the rear of the home. As you heard in the description, the deck's going on the rear of our house, yet it's a front yard ordinance, so it's a little bit weird. We recently put a fence in on this yard as well, and I had to go to 3 different departments for approval because of it's the way that I guess the property's situated. One of the individuals described the house as having 3 front yards. Wow. And so in this case, there's a 25-foot build line that's assessed, I guess, on the front and back of the house. So the deck that we want to put on comes, you can kind of see where that bump out is, the first bump out, that's the door that goes to the back of the house. The deck will come out 16 feet from there. And it really only goes to about the middle of our property in the backyard, but due to the the variance, the dedicated strip off of Kurth Road, and then the easements, and then the 25-foot build line, we would actually be encroaching by 3 feet into that 25-foot build line, which goes to the middle of our backyard right there, or what we consider our backyard.
Okay.
So my hardship here is just sort of the way that our property is situated, and given that, like I said, the way that the county zoned it, being our backyard, but it's considered a front yard, kind of puts us in a tough spot with how far in that building line goes.
So do you not have a back door exit out of your house?
There is a walkout basement as well for the and downstairs.
Okay. Vince, do you have any questions?
And if you're wondering if we just put a smaller deck on the house, I understand that. But if we come in to 3 feet to maybe like a 13-foot deck, and then there's a bump out where the door is, so then that shortens it even more, and so then it becomes pretty narrow in one spot. So that's why we're hoping to be able to move forward with the drawings and the dimensions as we originally set out for.
Okay. Vince, do you have any questions?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, wonderful. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see any hands at this time, so I'm going to mute the petitioner so the board can take their vote.
Okay, hearing none, 55-23, I vote to approve the variance as advertised, and the hardship just being a need for a very nice, safe exit from their home.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it carries.
56-23, Elvis Globakovic is a request for an exception to the rear yard regulations for the purpose of constructing an in-ground swimming pool at 4929 Forder Oaks Court, maintaining a rear yard of 10 feet in lieu of 15 feet as required by the R4 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance and PEU Ordinance 18,070. And Tom, I'm going to request for you to unmute. Again, please just state your first and last name for the record and present to the board.
Name's Tom Young. I've got customer Elvis. He's wanting a pool. Way the 15, well, the whole way the yard shaped, you can see the angle back. And you try to stay 15 off of each. There's also a deck on the back of the house. In order for me to get a swimming pool in there at all, I want to maintain that 6 feet off the deck. That's kind of always been my rule of thumb. I like a safety buffer between the deck and the pool. So even if I try to narrow that down to a 14-foot pool, which is a real little pool, he's got a lot of friends, family. He's looking for a bigger pool. But even at that point with the 14-foot pool, I'm still past that 15-foot line. So he would like to, go with the larger pool to accommodate, his needs. And we're asking for an additional 5 foot. There's the roadway. We are minimum of 40 feet off the roadway to that fence, which the fence is the property line. Some spots are 50 feet. So I don't think there's any issues as far as being too close to the road, in my opinion. Safety concerns, there's trees as barriers there. That's pretty much, what I have. Yeah.
Mhm. And where will the pool equipment be positioned?
Pool equipment is gonna be on the side, should be on that plot drawing. I thought it was. It's gonna be on the side of the house, right here.
Okay.
Yeah, see the equipment pad, yep. That'll be, it's up by the house.
Okay. Not near any neighbors.
No,
Homes. Okay.
it's on the rear of the house. It's not on the side. You
Okay.
be tucking it right, edge of the deck. We don't want to go under it, but we're right in the area.
Okay.
It
Yes,
looks like based on the drawings, it's got about
it's
13 feet off from
Yep,
the property
correct.
line.
Okay.
We've always had 6 foot as our rule off of decks. That's more of a safety concern. You start tucking a pool closer to a deck. I'm not even sure if it's allowed. But in my opinion, there's a lot of people out there that are crazy. I try to stay 6 foot away.
Okay. And so basically your lot is kind of narrow shaped. Is that the
Yeah,
hardship?
it's kind of, it goes in, you can see both ways there.
Mm-hmm.
So, 15 and 15, in order to stay 6 foot, I think the pool would have been 13 by 32 is all I could have fit in there. And staying 6, 15, and that's a narrow, basically like a pencil, And like I said, he's got a large family, a lot of friends, he would like a larger pool. He loves the neighborhood, he loves the area, he doesn't want to move.
Oh, there are some letters. Can you hold on one of those letters so we can
Yeah,
review
those were
that?
from the neighbors and the trustees.
Okay. So they're in support.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And I had the trustees' phone numbers there, and
Mhm. Okay.
Is there any intent to put any type of pool? I know we talked about where is the equipment going to go, but is there going to be any type of pool house or anything like that shed in addition?
no, nope,
There's no future plan for that.
no, it'll just be the equipment on the back of the house. We pour a concrete pad that they sit on, but it'll all be outside like normal.
So reinstating, I guess your hardship would be what on this variance then? I'm sorry.
Basically, the biggest pool he could get, staying 6 foot off of that deck, would be a 13-foot wide pool. That's not a very large pool. You get, 4 or 5 people, and in the shallow end, you're pretty close to each other. He's got a large family, a lot of friends, and enjoys, having them over, and obviously would like the bigger pool. A 13-foot pool, it's like I said, it's very narrow. I don't know if you've seen one, but
Mhm.
they're small. Just trying, yeah, like I said, I'm trying to accommodate, his needs.
Or further questions for me, Angela?
Okay. Thank you.
Debbie, you're muted if you were trying to say something.
There is a good amount of common ground behind his fence before the road, so it wouldn't be affecting really any neighbors.
Mhm. Okay. Well noted. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see any hands, so at this time I'm going to mute the petitioner's representative so the board can take a vote.
Remind me again, this is 56.
5623.
23. I move that we make approval of a variance, noting that the hardship is a very minimalized size of a pool for an in-ground pool.
I second it. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the motion passes.
'57-23 Aaron Crackover Trust is a request for an exception to the rear yard regulations for the purpose of constructing a deck at 12933 Autumn Fields Court, maintaining a rear yard of 13 feet in lieu of 15 feet as required by the R5 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County Zoning Ordinance and PEU Ordinance 11,785. CJ, I am going to request for you to unmute, and then Karen, I will also request for you to unmute in case you need to add any information that CJ can't. And then again, just state your names for the record, and then you'll be able to present to the board.
Sure.
Karen,
Oh, yeah, Karen, go ahead.
Karen Craigover.
And this is CJ Moss with Chesterfield Fence and Deck.
All right, you're good to present to the board. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll kind of give an overview of what the scope of work is. So we are going to be, the proposal is to build a 12-foot projection by 20-foot wide deck that has a 4.5 by 4-foot landing and stairs. And based on the information that I have from our salesman and from pictures of the existing project, it's more or less going to be like a remove and replace. So we're taking off an old deck, putting in a new deck with updated materials that are per code. Obviously, once this has been through plan review, and it's essentially in the same footprint. And from what I understand from speaking with the homeowner, and then I believe someone with the trustees and the owners,
That's yours.
it's mainly the reason that this is an issue is because all of the decks, they're trying to keep the look of the decks all the same with each other. And if another design was, gone with, then it wouldn't preserve that look of all the other decks. And I know I can see on the plot plan that I was given from our surveyor and then from the homeowner, the existing deck was 14.4 away from the condo plat border, and then the new one is 13. So from what I understand as well, that is stemming from a change in the stair width, because the old stair was smaller, and then now the new one is just a little bit wider to obviously perform per code. And then, like I said, everything else, it's pretty much just a remove and replace. So it's essentially going in the same footprint.
Okay.
Is it the intent to utilize the same supports, or is this a full gut of the deck? And
This is a whole gut of the deck. So we're going to have new piers, new posts, new framing, new decking, railing, the whole 9 yards.
And so the size of the deck request for variance, I guess I'm trying to understand the hardship of why we wouldn't stay within the 15-foot setback.
That might be something that Karen might be able to answer further than me. I mean, obviously we could move the landing and the stairs to another side of the deck, but like I said, as far as I'm understanding, the property owners and the building owners are trying to keep the layout of the decks identical to each other. So if we were to change that, if we have to make the deck smaller, then it's no longer, they're not going to be identical to each other.
So it is in line with the adjacent decks currently
Yes.
today. I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Okay. thank
Okay.
you.
Yes.
Thank you. No other questions from me, Angela.
Okay, so basically the need is to stay within that same confines of the previous deck?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions either. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see anybody at this time, so I'm going to mute the petitioner and their representative so the board can take a vote.
Okay, and that's 57?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 57-23, I vote to approve the variance as advertised, and the hardship being just the need to stay within the same confines as the previous deck.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you.
58-23, Bob Bierman, is a request for an exception to the side yard regulations for the purpose of constructing a retaining wall and fence at 3630 Rustic Meadow Drive, maintaining both side yards of 0 feet in lieu of 8 feet as required by the R3 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County zoning ordinance. And Bob, I'm going to send a request for you to unmute. Again, please just state your first and last name and then proceed to present to the board.
I am Bob Bierman. About 20 some odd years ago, we had a backyard that sloped down drastically to a 3-foot tie wall. We wanted to have a usable backyard, so we built a 20 to 25 foot retaining wall across the back of the property. And then my neighbor and I did, the neighbor to the right, as you're seeing it there. And I built the retaining wall in the back, and his yard is higher. So we have a retaining wall on the side between our yards, and I have a retaining wall on the other side, on opposite side. Both of those walls need repair. They were built on fill, nothing they could do about it. They're both sinking and falling. So we're trying to get those repaired. The retaining wall between me and my neighbor that's not in question goes right up the property line, and we're just replacing that as is. But the other side, the wall goes to the property line, but the contractor curved it back in to line up with the edge of the house, so the fence meets the house instead of going up the property line and turning the fence in when it gets to the house. So I want to take this opportunity to move this wall towards the property line, and the reason I want to do that is so I don't have to maintain the lawn on that side of that wall there. Right now I'm taking a heavy lawnmower down a slope and I've slipped once, and it's, the older I get, the more dangerous it gets for me. And I would just like to have my property to be flat and easy to maintain. And that's why I want to move it out to the property line.
Might be a little confused here. I'm sorry, Mr. Bierman. Is the intent to have it level with the adjacent yard? I guess maybe that's the part I'm missing.
No. So as you're looking at it there, I own property on the left side of that wall that slopes down.
Okay.
And it slopes down as it used to before we built the wall, and it slopes down as my neighbor's yard does. I would like to move the wall to the property line here, move it over 2.5 feet to the property line, thus adding 2.5 feet to my backyard of flat ground that I have to maintain versus having to maintain the ground on that slope.
But the intent is to backfill that space, or will you have the slope on the short side of your new proposed lawn? I guess that's what I'm trying to clarify.
We'll backfill
Okay.
on the other side of the wall. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And my question is, and are you closing the gap between the retaining wall and the fence on the other side?
We're replacing the fence.
Okay.
Yeah, that fence is barely standing. That's the goal. We got to get the walls replaced before we can replace the fence, because I don't want to build a good fence on top of a falling wall.
Bad wall, right? Makes sense. Okay.
And have we received any opposition from a neighbor or favor?
No.
Okay. Any other questions, Vince?
No other questions for me.
Okay. And I believe you asked the question, is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see any hands, so at this time, I'm going to mute the petitioner so the board can take a vote. And this is 58-23.
jump in on this one. So in the case for 58-23, I propose to make a motion to approve the variance, noting that the hardship is keeping the zero lot line, but increasing the safety, maintaining the yard.
I second it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
59-23 Gerard Goetz is a request for an exception to the side yard regulations for the purpose of maintaining the existing home and repairing the existing deck at 7810 Genesta Street, maintaining a side yard of 2 feet in lieu of 5 feet as required by the R5 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County zoning ordinance. And Mr. Smith, I'm going to request for you to unmute. Again, just please state your name for the record and then go ahead and present to the board.
I'm Brian Smith. I'm representing Gerhard Goetz at 7810 Genesta Street. This isn't an instance of building something new. He has always had this deck in the back of his house since he owned it in 2007. What he wants to do is propose to just replace the boards, make the deck more sustainable so that way he can move forward with repairs of his home. The deck does sit closer to, it sits in a position to where, well, as you can see, the lot size is very narrow. It's in the South County area, and we're just trying to pretty much maintain his deck at this, but replace boards and make it feasible for him to move forward with it.
Okay, so this is basically an existing deck that is just having repairs done to it?
Yes, adding boards, kick boards, rail, things like that of that nature.
Is it the intent to utilize the same supports solenoid?
Yes.
Okay, so there's an opportunity to shift it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for cosmetic purposes or to increase safety?
A little bit of both, increased safety and for cosmetic purposes. The handrail definitely needed. He's going to put. I think he repaired there, putting that in or something like that. But basically for both.
Okay.
No further questions from me.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see any hands, so at this time I'm going to mute the petitioner's representative so the board can take a vote. This is 59-23.
Okay. 59-23, I vote to approve. The variance is advertised and the hardship just being the need to upgrade the deck and increase its safety.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
(60-23) Tina Rudolph is a request for an exception to the rear yard regulations for the purpose of constructing an above-ground swimming pool at 10962 Kingsmere Drive, maintaining a rear yard of 10 feet in lieu of 15 feet as required by the R4 Residence District regulations of the St. Louis County zoning ordinance. Tina, I'm going to request for you to unmute. Again, please just state your first and last name, and then go ahead and present to the board.
Hi, my name is Tina Rudloff, and I would like to have an above-ground pool. About 3 years ago, I was hit by a semi-truck, and from my knee down is completely torn up, and they've done all of the surgeries that they can, and they recommended that being weightless and walking is the best way that I can, try and build back that muscle and get the movement back in my ankle. So our hardship is that we only have 10 feet if we're 3 feet off of the sunroom that's on there now. And so we would like to have that, be able to put it with just 10 feet. 10 feet would give us, and it's 10 feet. There's our, we just got a new fence put in So, and there is a shed in the yard. They said that that would be part of the, it didn't qualify because it was over 7% of my yard. But if we get the variance, the shed is going to come down, and that's where the equipment for the new pool will sit, or the pool will sit.
Okay, so the shed will come down then
Yes, ma'am.
as a part of this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is the above ground pool, is there an intent to have a deck or any sort tying back to the house?
At this time, no, there's not. I bought a set of stairs that I can climb, to where it's not like that ladder. It's got actual stairs, so where I could get into the pool easier, because I don't do stairs very well.
We're just thinking, Debbie, if we are, do we know how close we would be if there was a future deck? I'm just trying to understand the possibility of the 7%.
If she did a deck, she would definitely need to come back to the board for lot coverage.
Mm-hmm.
No
Okay.
further questions.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I don't see any hands, so at this time I'm going to mute the petitioner so the board can take a vote. This is 60-23.
On 60-23, I make a motion to approve the variance for an above ground pool only at this time. Noting that the hardship is from the space allocated on the rear setback due to the size of the pool.
I second that motion, and then I will add that the shed needs to be torn down as a condition of the variance.
Agreed. Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
(61-23) Schwartz Dalton / Shillington box is a request for an exception to the front yard regulations for the purpose of providing required parking spaces at 3501 Tree Court Industrial Boulevard, maintaining a front yard of 4 feet in lieu of 15 feet as required by the M1 Industrial District regulations and Section 1003.165 off-street parking and loading requirements of the St. Louis County zoning ordinance. And Michael, I'm going to request for you to unmute. Please just state your first and last name, and then you'll be able to present to the board.
Good evening. I'm Michael Miners with St. Charles Engineering and Surveying. I'm representing Shillington Box. The property is actually owned by Schwartz Dalton Real Estate LLC. As mentioned, there's currently a setback of 15 feet for parking from the front yard from Tree Court Industrial Boulevard. And we're requesting to reduce that down to 4 feet for the purpose of building a parking lot, expanding the parking lot in front of the facility. The Shillington Box was, the original building was constructed in 1967. The building is at 1.66.51 feet from Tree Court Industrial Boulevard. And the original plans show, and there currently is, parking in front of the building, not as much as we're proposing now, but the current parking does encroach on the 15 feet setback that must have been created after the building was constructed originally. There are other businesses in Tree Court Industrial Park that also currently have parking within the 15-foot front yard setback. Shillington Box does plan for a building addition to on the west end of the property. That would not be in the front. Currently, as I mentioned, there's sufficient room in front of the building for a 22-foot wide drive lane and 19-foot deep parking spots parking spaces on each side of the drive lane if we could get the variance for the 15 foot setback. There was a variance originally granted last year for the similar layout that we have, but we've had some delays in getting our planning documents approved, so that variance expired. So we're requesting approval of a 4-foot variance so they could proceed on with the parking area in front of their building. That's basically it.
And so does this affect any of the right-of-ways around of the road?
No, it does not affect the right of way.
Okay.
Is the proposed parking needed for the 4-foot variance, is that employee parking or is that public parking?
It's employee parking. And currently, unfortunately, a lot of them are parking on the grass. They have double shifts, and the biggest pressure is when the shifts change. So they're parking throughout. They do need more parking.
Can we go back to the layout, please? So is there any type of plan within this plan to have bollards, park wheel stops or anything at that back lane?
On where?
Wheel stops for the parking spaces along that outside lane
Currently, no.
near the right of way.
There is a curb proposed, and we do have a landscape plan proposed with lower level dense landscaping in the front. So there will be a curb along the front. Then there'll be more than 4 feet of green space. There's additional width from the edge of the pavement to the right-of-way line, and then 4 feet of on-site green space as well. So the cars will be about, front of the cars, I don't have the exact dimension, I can get it for you, about 10 feet from the back of curb.
So I'm just trying to get to clarify. So I heard you say that there will be a curb that, so for instance, would stop a large pickup truck or something like that from extending over less than 2 feet from the road.
Yes, yeah, it'll be, there's actually 4 feet within our property, and then I don't have the exact dimension, but I think at least 6 feet of green space within the right of way before you get to the curb. So there's about 10 feet of green in the future to the curb. So there won't be an overhang issue.
No further questions from me, Antonio.
Okay. Is there anyone here in favor or opposition?
I do know we have a neighbor on this call, so I am going to mute the petitioner's representative for the time being, allow the neighbor to see if they have anything that they would like to add real quick. Okay, Steve, I'm going to request for you to unmute, and then again, just state your first and last name, and then if you have anything that you would like to add.
Hi, Steve Herster. I'm with Bone and Dawson, but more importantly, I'm one of 3 trustees for the industrial park. We would support this easily. There's plenty of other neighbors. We, in fact, across the street from them are maybe 4, 5, 6 feet from the street. We don't really see any issue with it. The only thing we would encourage the engineering firm to do is make sure that they get the trustees signed off for the indentures for any development that they're doing. Make sure the plans are submitted to the trustees of the industrial park, and we're fully supportive of this and think it will help them. And we are certainly empathetic to shift change with lots of employees. We have about 250 employees, and shift change is always a challenge for parking. And like I said, we are closer to the street than they currently are. I see absolutely no issue with this.
Sounds good. Thank you. So there is no one else In favor
No.
of opposition? Okay. We're ready to make a decision.
Okay. This is 61-23.
Thank you. 61-23, I vote to approve the variance as advertised, the hardship being the need for additional parking space for employees. Seems like they have a good plan to have a curb in place and to keep the cars and trucks out of the road.
I would also add to that that the existing building had a change of use and change in population of cars. So I second based on that.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it carries. Thank you. So we'll entertain a motion to end the meeting?
Yep. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I move to end the meeting.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it carries.
All right. See you guys.
All
Thank
right,
you.
2 weeks. Take care.